Hi everyone and welcome to this my video on Introduction to Transition Matrices. Now, I always make it sound like I should be a movie presenter, really, isn't it? It's like such a big start and then it sort of falls apart by the end. I'm just joking. My name's Darren from Maffs Guru. Thank you very much for joining me. What's your name? No, don't reply, please. I'm not going to hear you. But if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'll hear you. Well, at least I'll hear that you've watched the video because there is no other way I get feedback. Unless you want to leave a comment on my YouTube channel as well, that would be amazing. Yes, needy. I thought so too. So should we move on to learning objectives? Yep. By the end of this video, I'm hoping we'll be able to set up a transition matrix, know what a transition matrix is, and be able to interpret one. Good. All right. Well, at least we know where we're going, even if we don't know what one is. Now, in past videos, what have we been looking at? We've added, subtracted, raised to powers, multiplied by each other's, and scalars. We've done so much stuff. But it's really important to remember that matrices are there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to model real-world situations. All right, just by putting real-world stuff as a matrix allows us to do sort of some pretty funky calculations to work out, for example, what's going to happen in the future. And I don't mean whether you're going to win the lottery, to be honest with you, because if that's the case, can I have a little bit, just a few 100,000, million, maybe. Anyway, so nothing in life is constant. Things always change. And I've got examples coming up in later videos, right? So if we can model them with matrices, that is awesome. But before we get there, let's look at this particular diagram here. What on earth does this mean? Well, actually, believe it or not, this is a pictorial representation of something in real life. It could be the number of people who go to the movies week on week on week, and those who stay home. I don't know about you, I love a good movie. I love a good movie. I like to sit there and just let it all wash over me. Like, you know, Avatar. It was blue people running around trying to save a tree. Other people have tried to tell me differently. I don't care. I want to go and watch Paddington Bear and believe that bears literally talk and eat marmalade sandwiches. I've been in education for too long and I'm beginning to lose the plot. Now, moving on from that completely. What does this see? I got an M and an S. Okay, well, the M could stand for those who go to the movies. S, stay at home. Cool. Well, what this actually shows me is the movements week on week for those people who go to the movies and those people that stay at home. Now, this arrow here, because it starts and ends up where it started, and that 20% basically tells me that 20% of the people who go to the movies one week will go to the movies the next week. Wow. That doesn't mean the same 20%. It just means that 20% of the people who went to a movie on one week went to a movie on the next week. It can be completely different people week on week on week on week. What do you think this means? 80%. Well, it sort of makes sense that if 20% went to the movies, that 80% then must have stayed at home. Oh, or at least 80% who went to the movies one week stayed at home the next week. This one here, this 60% says 60% of the people who stayed at home one week stayed home the next week. But 40% of the people who stayed at home one week went to movies next week. Now, again, one of the big things that you need to work out here is what do we notice? When we look at the things that are coming, 20 and 80 add up to 100%. And 60 and 40 add up to 100%. So these things, these percentages, have to add up to 100%. Now this thing there, as you can see there, is called a transition diagram. And we would generally start with the worded version of the transition diagram. Now all of these words here eventually turn into that one there. So suppose that in a certain town you have two choices of activity each Saturday night. Going to the movies, M, or staying at home, H. Now, while I'm deeply indebted to Cambridge for allowing me to use their examples, it's a bit of a slip up there that they've used H here, he said, trying to highlight, and they've used S here. But we'll move that to one side for the moment because we are intelligent people and can see past this. 20% of people who go to the movies on Saturday will go again next Saturday. Now, do you notice there, we're talking about a change of state. I'm going to use that word a little bit more later on, but we're going from this week to next week. Okay, that's fine. So 20% to go to the movies this Saturday will go again next Saturday. So what do we notice there? There we have the 20%. Now, automatically it would suggest that if 20% of them go to the movies, that 80% must stay at home.